Boards, board games. We might be talking about board games, periodic specifically, but I'm not gonna shout. I played this game with a friend. Is it a good one? Well, that depends on your personal tastes and what you want. I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not a super exciting game, but it's quite strategic and it will make you think and hopefully not make you feel thick. Board games, periodic, it's what we're talking about. Periodic, and I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. Time for Busy Beats and Board Game Bladder. Look, I've only played this game a couple of times, so call this a first impression, whatever. Fundamentally, as I mentioned in the song, did I enjoy it? Yeah, I did. Would I play it again? Probably not, says the truth. And so let me try and fix. Hopefully that remains. Okay. So, yes. I think that it's a quality game, it's well made, and if you want a game about the periodic table, frankly, this is almost certainly I don't know if it's the only one. It might be the only one, but it's fairly well done, and I can't imagine a better game about it, but it just feels weird to me because it's kind of an abstraction of an abstraction, and within the game, it didn't feel like it was making the subject matter feel alive, and makes me think, what's the point? Like, this science behind it didn't really, it felt a bit inaccessible to me, but I'll get into all of that a bit later on. Let me first talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. I got a little delivery from Hasbro yesterday. That was super exciting. I got a couple of American edibles. So I got, by which I mean I got chocolate M&Ms and I got Cheez-Its. I've never had Cheez-Its in my life. Also, I'm fairly sure that the American M&Ms taste very different to the ones that we get here. So that was kind of interesting. And they sent me Clue, The Escape Room, which I'm curious to get to play with my friends. Looking forward to that. And also sent me Connect 4 Spin, where you've got a toy and you spin it and pew, pew. Now feel like I should have got the box here. But it was a lovely gift from them, and they are doing a little chats with people, trying to encourage people to make stuff. And it's obvious, I don't think I should be talking too much specifically, but I will say that one of their initial presentations, it made me think, yeah, I know that tune. And that's like such a brilliant video, and are like really on board with everything and diversity, and like almost made me cry. Not gonna lie, there was a lot of other stuff as well that happened that made me a bit sad. I'd rather not talk about those. I did manage to arrange a couple of meetings, hopefully. Like, I sent off a couple of emails. Hopefully I'm now officially stopping sending off emails, because at this point, Essen is, I'll be traveling this time next week. I will be going probably on the ferry. Maybe we'll be in mainland Europe, myself and Alan and Charlie, and I'm really looking forward to it. I just need to get ready, and I need to also do a whole bunch of illustrations before I leave. So let's talk about brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Science is quite brilliant, isn't it? I mean, the way that science works, it's basically this all about the scientific approach. It's not about knowledge. It's not about hey, this bit of knowledge is science and this bit of knowledge isn't science. It's like engineering and game design and cookery. It can all be science if you ascribe to the scientific approach. And as far as I know, like fundamentally, the scientific approach is try something, see if it's right, and then be willing to change your opinions. And I think it would be great if more people were listening to other people, listening to the evidence, and potentially changing their opinions. So yeah, science, like the scientific approach, the kind of thinking about what exists and trying to pursue facts and evidence rather than opinions. Yeah. As always, please feel free to comment, ask questions, follow. If you're watching this during the stream, then and you ask something relevant to the game, I'll probably just answer. If you're watching after the stream and you say something or you ask me a question, then I will try to answer later. So, quick thoughts. Periodic, I enjoyed it. It has a lovely little movement mechanism where you're moving your things around and there's a bit of an economy where, hey, you can always get to movement for free and even gain energy. Once you've gotten your movements, if you only do one movement on that turn, you can take all the energy tokens that are left on any one of these spaces. Conversely, if you want to do multiple things, you'll have to spend more of these energy tokens, placing them around potentially on multiple things or potentially on the same thing if you need. And that's going to give your opponents or your opponent singular, depending on whether it's one or two players, something which they can pick up. And that movement economy is interesting. I enjoyed it. I would play it if someone wanted me to. I would happily play it if I felt like I wanted to teach someone or make them familiar with the periodic table. Although again, I realize when I'm talking about it, the other games from Genius Games, they might be about the way that atoms actually bond. They might be about the way that things actually work. Whereas the periodic table is itself already an abstraction. So what that means is that you're basically playing a board game, an abstraction, which is based on an abstraction of the elements. And in order to make it feel interesting, in order to make it feel alive, I kind of wish that let's get some of these cards out. I kind of wish that on the cards that give you sets to collect, because this is what it's all about. These cards that say, hey, you need to collect the things that are named after colors, CL, RB, and I. Well, some of these are explained, like the what's a Britannia metal is explained in the reference sheet, but a lot of these, okay, NPK fertilizers, I guess that means that these things are good at fertilizing plants, but I have to assume stuff. It does. Look, I'm not saying I want to be spoon-fed because that is a pejorative connotation, but I kind of do. I kind of want these to be smaller. I kind of want these to be a little bit thinner so that then I can have like a couple of lines, maybe 3 lines of flavor text that says plant nutrients, NPK fertilizers. It was discovered in such and such a year that these 3 nutrients are 90% of what plants needs, or they're specifically helpful, or they're all of what a plant needs. I don't know. I would like something to make it feel alive. And that's where this game fell really short for me personally. So just to say, I am biased. I mean, I love what Genius Games is doing. Generally, I think they're a great company, and I love, the approach of making games that are hopefully fun games for people to enjoy, and also teach you something by the by. And I would love there to be more games from Genius Games. I would love them to keep doing more stuff, and I would, it would be amazing if one day I could make something that was fit for their library, because it's such a great mission statement. I love Genius Games as a concept. How I got it, I was visiting somewhere. Someone had been sent a whole lot of games just randomly, and it was something they'd never opened, and they said, hey, if you want it, if you're interested, you can have it. So I got this game for free, and I will probably be passing on. When we played it, okay, how did it feel to play? Let's talk about that. Everyone's got one of these 5 colors. So you can be orange, pink, purple, and these 2 are a little bit too similar for my tastes. Blue or green. I mean, yeah, they didn't use black or white or grey. I understand that it's a really pleasant color scheme, but I'm not entirely sure that this is the most colorblind friendly. The bulk of the game is having your little microscope. Let's say I was green. Having your little microscope, it'll always be on a single place, and there will always be 4 different things available to collect. 4 different sets. Sorry for my words. So in this example, I could go for bromide, mercury, hydrogen, helium, neon, carbon, oxygen, calcium, what does that say? Technetium, astatine, or francium. Now that's a lot to kind of keep track of and make sure that you know where everything is. So this is where these little tokens come in. So every time one of these new things comes out, you're like, okay, 35, it is here, bromine. 80 is mercury. And these are apparently 2 things that are liquid at room temperature. Are they the only things that are liquid at temperature? That's like, I would like a confirmation again, getting back to making it feel real. I would like it to say, these are the only 2 elements that are liquid at room temperature. Because if that's right, I mean, that is astonishing, and that is a really cool thing to know. But and now I've talked about it in this review, because it's the 3rd or 4th time I've seen that card, I might remember. So after all the dissing and saying it doesn't, so adding, you can see they've color-coded things to make it easier for you to know what's what. Also, the color coding does refer to different types of elements. So you've got these 3s, which carbon, oxygen, and 20 calcium, 20. And tech, no, that's 43. There we go. 85 and 87. So at this point, I'm not really looking at what these things mean. On a typical turn, I'm thinking about how much energy I have, where the energy is. Let's say randomly it was like that, and I had this much in my hand, and I'm thinking, okay, where do I want to go? Well, clearly this one's pretty close. That would help me. And when you move, you get to move multiple spaces. You get to move 1, 2, 3 spaces. Let's say I was okay, I'm going to increase the atomic radii, but during the game I don't verbalize that. I don't remember that. So I'm just like, okay, I go boom, I go down there, and one of my little tokens goes onto the TC. That means that I've gotten one of these elements. Someone else might get one of these elements. At the end, once it's all filled out, the person who filled it gets 9 points. Everyone else gets one of these little runner-up markers, which also give you points. Oh, sorry, not those runner-up markers. Here we go. These little runner-up markers for 3 points. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, if I go here, if I get one of these, then I'm getting 3 points regardless. It's 6 for the 2. Maybe finishing this one, because I need to do 3 for the 7, it's not as big a payoff. This one and this one are clearly a little bit better, so this is back to getting 3 points per unit. Whereas here, you're actually kind of better off strictly thinking about the points, but then the person who finishes it off does get a little bonus, where it says, okay, you can move to a thing, or you can take 2 energy and do extra things. So on my turn, typically I would be like, okay, I've gone there, and I've paid for it. And now I go... Do I go somewhere else? There's nowhere within 3 of me. So maybe I just wait. Maybe I, instead of even dropping one off, if there was one already there, maybe I would take the 1 energy to try and replenish. That's basically the game. You're moving around. You're ideally trying to get things that are near each other. And you've got this secondary objective, which is you have these cards off the board, obviously, in a circle, and then you're trying to visit all of these aspects. So your little boop, boop. Once I'd finished on an alkaline earth metal, I would progress. Once I'd finished on one of those, I would progress. And each time I would progress. And so it's kind of a, hey, can you visit each of these sets in this particular order? And that's an interesting secondary objective, a secondary consideration. Whereas these ones give you fixed points, this one gives you kind of exponential points. It goes 2, 4, 7, 10, 14, 18, 23, 28. So you can see, like, right at the end, if you go make it all the way around, you're getting 5 points for having finished on a particular thing. But even then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's still about 3.5. Well, it's exactly 3.5 points per thing if you make it all the way there. With fewer players, it's going to be more likely you'll get there. With more players, it's less likely. With more players, like any of these games, there's more chaos, and also the end point is running out of stuff. So with more players, that feels actually, yeah, player count discrepancies. It feels weird to me that at 4 players you're going to get fewer moves rather than keeping it on going a little bit, or maybe shortening the game for 2 players. I don't know. It just feels like with more players, you increasingly get less and less agency, control, and there's no benefit to all this downtime. You don't feel excited when other people are taking their turn. You kind of feel like, okay, that person's okay. And the person before you, now you are able to start thinking, okay, well, assuming they don't take a big pile, now I can think about whether there is a big pile for me to remove to do my movements, or whether I want to move around, because there's not really much that can be done outside of your turn. So for me, it felt like I wanted to check out. There is a third thing which I've not mentioned, which are these secret objectives. I'll get to them in a wee bit. They can These ones give you points for being on the academic track, and they also give you points for they give you 2 points for any one of these three, depends. So this one gives you 2 points for that, and 1 point per academic track, 2 points for that. And these are meant to push you down a certain path. I think the intention is more that they push you and give you some guidance rather than being balanced. As gamers, I'm not going to lie, it did feel slightly sad. I felt like even though you do get a choice of 2, some of them just felt so much better. Because, like, you're likely to get the pairs, at which point this one feels strictly better, where rather than getting 2 points per red, you're now getting 5 points per pair of red and purple. You're probably able to do that. This felt amazing. 3 points per set of 3 different difficulty levels. I mean, in big player counts games, that might be a bit of a lottery, but you're going to be able to work out different difficulty levels. And then this one where it's either 3 points per total goal cards you complete, or 3 points per level on the academic track, whichever is lowest, which feels kind of, well, you're never going, if that one's done perfectly, you'll always get more points in that one. And yeah, then you've got these ones where it's 5 points per pair and 9 points per each set of 3 different gold cards of different difficulties. And that doesn't actually, your gold cards can only match for one of these things. At which point, yeah, I can imagine some people, myself included, frankly, feeling, oh, that's what I got the chance to do. That's a bit sad. I feel a bit stymied. I feel a bit like I had a worse chance. There is a lot of luck in this game. Like, if the things come out and are all over there and then you're over here, then you've got to spend a bit of time and energy where ideally every single move you make, you want to be able to at least get something with every time you spend energy. Here, this is really unfortunate for green. Whereas, hypothetically, if purple were, up here, it doesn't mean that you automatically get all of these things, because you still need to pay, do that, pay, do that, pay, and do that, and then pay me, or maybe you go there, and then you could go, yeah, you're either going to go the green and pink or just do the other purple. Either way, if this person had been anywhere in this area, they'd just be laughing. And it's not a game for, it gives you a few points to score. Hopefully you'll be satisfied, but it feels like, for me, it's a bit too luck based for someone who really wants to strategize. But bearing in mind the audience of, okay, maybe it's for younger children, it feels like there's not really any exciting moments, and it really felt all like an abstraction. That's the truth. Let's make it a little bit more positive. Let's talk about what I loved. I did really love this system. I love the energy economy, where, hey, I could pay, like, do that and then do that. But, like, I've only got 4 tokens, which means that if I'm paying 1, then 2, then, like, I don't have another 2 to pay for the next thing. But conversely, I'm incentivized to look at what's already there. This brings a little bit of interaction. So if I wanted to increase or decrease the atomic number, I would take all of these, and that replenishes my energy. That's a really nice system. It adds a tiny bit of consideration in 2 players. Again, it feels really nice, like a pushing and throwing. In, like, more players, it felt a bit, yeah, it felt kind of very tactical, like I'm just going to do what's best for me on this turn. I can't really work out what's good for everyone else. So it felt like the interaction was almost a byproduct of player chaos rather than being, but sorry, this is meant to be what I loved. But I did like this at the 2-player count. It was a really nice interaction. I like the fact that you've got different ways of scoring. I like the fact that you've got, hey, you're picking up these. Hey, if you don't manage to get to all of these, you still get some points, and that might be enough. That might still make you happy. You get points for doing that with your secret goal cards. You get points for this. It feels like, point salad games. There's just do things, you get points. You could, you don't know how to go, like, this is going to get you the most points, and it'll get you a little benefit. And these never actually give you more points than just doing one or two of them. So it's all about these bonus abilities where you take extra energy or you teleport somewhere immediately. Like these move twos that you get from finishing those are super useful. And then this allows you to move to the yellows or the blues over here. This one allows you to move an additional 3 spaces, which in this example, if green was here, like boom, rather than being only able to go 1, 2, 3, I can now remove these and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and actually get something useful done. So that can bring you out of a sticky situation. There's a good amount of variability. +3. Oh yeah, and a free trend where you get to move somewhere. It's almost like, yeah, the move extra allows you to pick what you want to do, but then move extra means you need to pick that, and you are only going to get one element, whereas this one can potentially give you another element, which is really exciting, because every time you pay for a movement, you get to research that element. I like the fact that you're doing lots of stuff. I like the fact that it feels like there's a lot to calculate. And when I played it, again, going back to what it felt like, it felt very mathematical. It felt, my focus was very much on the, okay, what is better? Is it to get 3 points from 6 points from my thing, or is it to get the 7 points doing the bits of extra work, which is less efficient, but I get the extra bonus, plus I get the cards, which can help my goals. And thinking about which is better, thinking about when it's better to go up the track, when it's better to try and trigger at the end of the game, what's better to... There is a lot to think about. And yeah, let's get into stuff I didn't like. None of that feels like it's really massively about the periodic table. Whoops. There we go. So, don't get me wrong, I understand that these movements are generally true, and it's interesting to know. If I played it a third time, I'd probably be like, okay, going that way, that changes the atomic number, that's some ionization energy. Can't remember what that means, but that atomic radii, okay, and that's the atomic mass, so that way the radius is bigger, that way the mass is more interesting, and that's the decrease the atomic mass. And apparently as you increase the atomic radius, then you decrease the ionization energy. So just the names of the things, and the fact that the movement, like the fact that the periodic table has this hierarchy, which actually, you know what, I've learned something. I take back the thing that I said, like, I still say, yes, there's pleasant tactics, it's a lovely movement economy, and it's relatively easy to understand, as you can see scrolling there. It doesn't, it does teach me that, okay, this way there's a relationship, that way there's a relationship, but it didn't make it feel alive. Um, I read through, obviously, I read through the rule book to play the game, but then afterwards, I was intrigued. I did read through the science behind periodic, a game of the elements, and whilst there were bits of it where it talks about some of the gold cards, so okay, that's what a Britannia Metal is. It's something that so you can fuse, okay, but that reading that and then coming back to the cards, it felt like there was a disconnect. It felt like, okay, here's the teaching here, and I want it to be something where when the person to the left of me is taking a turn, I've got something that I've got to read. I felt like that was a missed opportunity. I wanted something where, I don't know, it made it feel like it made it resonate. And the truth is, you know what? It did teach me something. It did, but most of this felt like really inaccessible to me. Like there were a lots of terms that I just didn't understand, and it kind of skimmed over. I understand there are space considerations. It's limited to 8 pages. Well, 7 pages because they've got this big fancy title, and it felt like this is real estate they could have used. I wanted it to make it resonate with me, and that's something that never happened. I mean, I've heard of some of these. I know silver. I don't know what palladium or rhodium or any of these things are. I don't understand them. If like they came up and this was like, oh, this is mercury, it's like, okay, I know mercury. I don't know what bromine is. That's the truth. Maybe I'm displaying my ignorance, but it didn't spark my curiosity enough that I was like, oh, wow, what is bromine? Let's check it out. Let's look it up on the internet. It felt like it was using this more as a backdrop, fundamentally, than integrating it. Having said all that, again, like I said right at the start, the periodic table is already a human abstraction of the reality. And so to play a game about the abstraction, that's a weird thing. But I don't know, like something where you're jigsawing them together. I don't know, like using it as a grid for typical grid movements, probably. I'm certainly not saying I could have done better. That's not what I'm saying at all. Yeah, it was good. And again, if you want a game about the periodic table, then this is probably your best option. If you want to learn about the periodic table, if you are happy to learn a few rules, I think that the rules are complex. What does it say? 10 plus? Yeah, I'd kind of agree with that. You probably need to be around 10 and you need to be 10 and have the inclination. Obviously, inclination is what's more important to be able to learn this game, I would say. I can imagine a lot of adults who wouldn't have the inclination to learn this game based on the complexity of rules. Conversely, I know some 8-year-olds who would probably have the ability to play this game no problem. I think that the age range is probably fine. Players 2 to 5. I will. I think that the more players there are, it doesn't bring anything to the game. It's nice to be able to play the game with 5 players, I guess, but if it's a family of 5, I would almost rather, as a parent, um, team up with one of my children, or maybe be doing the washing up and, come back down like every so often to kind of check in and see how they are and stay involved that way. I think that, yeah, playing with it's not something that's going to really spark. I don't see it as something to spark curiosity or, well, what is this thing? But if you're, and it doesn't like, it's like not the ultimate. It's not the ultimate learning situation. There's not enough things of, well, I guess if you learnt all of these cards, lowest boiling points is hydrogen, helium, and neon. So apparently, hydrogen, helium, and neon are the three things that are the most likely to be gaseous. So, like, if you learn all of these cards, I guess you're probably going to get a better understanding of what's going on. And yeah, you know what? Again, I sound really negative about this game. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of that is just because it's not for me. If I was just discovering what the periodic table is for the first ever time, if my parents were happy to play this game with me, if we were playing it together as a family, I mean, let's say that 5 of us were playing it together, I probably would have been fine with it. And maybe once it got to my turn, it gets to an end, you do some stuff, you get different points, and you say, okay, that's the alkaline metals, halogens, it's the metalloids, these are the noble gases, these are the non-metals, these are the post-transition metals, these are the transition metals, and these, wait, alkaline metals, did I say them twice? But it will familiarize you somewhat with it. I would happily play this. It's not something that will immediately resonate with someone who doesn't know it. It doesn't make it resonate, but it helps you get there, I guess. Because I guess for me, the periodic table is still, it's actually quite impressive that apparently I understand there's a lot of relationships which aren't even listed on here, and it kind of turned into a sort of nice shape, and it's very clean, and there's a lot of truisms about how stuff is, and yeah, reading about the science, how things change. So yeah, if you're wanting to learn the periodic table, or if you're wanting your child to learn, then it's fine. And hello, Xate, and who says, I played that at Essen last year. Yeah. So I hope that you're generally well. And as a player, what did I learn? I guess I learned that the different directions symbolize things, and I primarily learned to that sometimes you're just unlucky with where things arrive, and in a 2-player game, it matters more about where you place your energy, because in a 4-player game, it's too chaotic. As a designer, yeah, again, it's kind of teaching me that making a game which is an abstraction about an abstraction is kind of a weird thing, and I would really like to play some of their other games which are not about abstractions. And I think it's also taught to me that anything could be a grid. Yeah, anything could make a map. I mean, could have a map of the world, obviously, like we've done. We could have map of this, train line, TFL, whatever. And with the other things, because it's all movement based, because it's a map of the world, because it's geography, but you could equally have, yeah, I'm actually struggling to think of a grid now that is not about movement. But yeah, if you had a diagram, you could move around a diagram, and yeah, it, like overall summary, it was a fine game. I never felt excited about playing it. Like even when I won, I didn't feel like, whoa, I managed to do that. So it was like, okay, I managed to potentially calculate a little bit better. Maybe there was, and again, bearing in mind, I'm probably not the target audience. Probably the target audience is really people who are maybe 10 to 15 or just are so in love with the periodic table that they want this sort of stuff as a gift. I can appreciate that. It's a well-made game. It's fairly well designed. There's nothing brilliant in it from my perspective. And that both speaks well to the craftsmanship of the game, but also it's probably the most damning thing I can say, which is it doesn't spark joy in my heart. Playing it didn't spark joy in my heart, but I do still appreciate that it exists. I do still massively appreciate that there are games about the periodic table, and there's someone making games about this and about atoms and about molecules coming together, and keep it up, please. Genius games. I don't want to discourage. And, you know, if you want a game about the periodic table, let me reiterate, this is a perfectly fine game. It's just that, I don't know. It's, yeah, that's fundamentally what they've brought, and that's the bulk of the value of the game, is its subject matter. I hope that feels reasonable. If you've got any questions, yeah, Exate, feel free to let me know. What did you think? Did you have a particularly different experience? Did it spark excitement in your heart? Either way, let me talk about question of the day. Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. So my question to you, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching after the fact, is simply, do you have a favorite element? Yeah. Do you have a, yeah, how did you do lots of stuff at chemistry? Did you get on well with it? I remember, I mean, I can't say that I had a favorite element or I have a favorite element. I mean, I guess oxygen, because I understand that it's a big part of what we need, or maybe nitrogen, because I understand that we are nitrogen-based life forms. So those are kind of essential to our life, I think. So, I mean, to be fair, there's a whole bunch of other stuff and I'm sure that if there was no carbon in the world, we wouldn't survive either. So it's hard for me to pick. Chemistry, I did okay at. I was sometimes a troublemaker, and then the teacher would give me extra like stuff to read and then keep me occupied by, yeah. So it's yeah, I did okay at chemistry. I think I did definitely better than average, but yeah, I think I got a B. Let's at higher. Xate said, I thought it was fine. If I had kids that need to learn the charts for school, it would be convenient. Yeah, I would very much agree with that. And I would give this, for my personal tastes, Yeah, I'm just going. I know that, like, I don't like giving numbers, and please don't focus on numbers. Like for my personal tastes, it's a perfect, like, it's a good game. It's a really good 5 out of 10. Um, for what it is, for if you want to learn about the periodic table, frankly, there's no alternatives. As far as I'm aware, there's certainly nothing. So I would give it a solid, yeah, 9 out of 10. Could have been potentially a wee bit better. I do still think that it would have been nice to have a little bit more descriptive text on the cards, but yeah, I would give it a solid 9 out of 10 for that specific use case, and that therein you get the flaws of just a single rating system. Where, but yeah, question of the day: did you like chemistry? Do you have a favorite element? I'm going to say that I felt indifferent towards chemistry, and I did it at higher because I was okay at it. In retrospect, I probably would have enjoyed, languages a bit more, but at least my adult self would. Over to you. What are you up to? You can share button if you want to. What are you up to? Are you getting ready for Essen? If you are, is there any games that you're looking forward to? Are you excited for anything? What will you be doing there? I am going to be, yeah, going outside, having a quick walk, doing a lot of drawing, sorting out a few things. I'm going there with just me and running some 2 p.m. events and doing some pitching. I'll say that even though I'm not running a stand, I'm still feeling a bit nervous about it. I'm still feeling a bit, ooh, like, just in, like, this, I'm just feeling a bit exhausted recently, but I'll try to get, the washing up and, like, all the packing done and make sure. Yeah, I would like to get a couple of things. I would really like to get hair and some other treatment, but I don't know if I'll have time. Like in the week, because also lots of drawing to be done, and yeah, tomorrow got an online presentation that I want to attend. Friday I do still want to go to playtest, so yeah, we'll see how stuff goes. For now, recap and wrap up before we finish up. Periodic. It's a game. It's a very reasonable game. If you like playing board games, you'll probably enjoy this. And it is a very reasonably well-made game. There's things that, and if you want to learn the elements, go for it. I mean, learn the periodic table. Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't tell you about what these okay, it's half the time these things don't always explain themselves, and half of that time, it's not. That's my biggest issue. But to recap and wrap up before we finish up, yeah, we also talked about science being brilliant, questioning stuff being brilliant. I talked about some gifts I got yesterday, and from, like, yeah, I've never had Cheez-Its before. That was good. And, like, today I'm just feeling a bit, to be honest. It's been the first day that I've not felt energized enough to get out of the house before streaming since I started my drink subscription. But if you want to check me out, I am Stuff by Bet in all the places. Stuffbybet.com/streams if you want to know what I'm streaming about in the future. When I'm in Essen, given the roaming charges, I will be doing very short streams, but they will be very short. And yeah, I will probably skip parts of the regular sections. I'll just show you, hey, this is a thing. I'm as Tessin. Goodbye. It'll be kind of that level of short. Share, spread the word. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And yeah, once more, thank you, John Coveyou, Paul Salomon, for John Coveyou specifically, Genius Games. I do appreciate what they're doing. And yeah, thank you for my to the person who gave me this gift for free, but it wasn't even a review copy. It was just, hey, if you want it, you can have it. So I'll probably do the same. And if you want it and you're happy to pay postage, then leave a comment below. So for now, lots of love and bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Do, 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 bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And yeah, lots of love. Bye, bye.